The world is not built for those who feel too deeply. Leo knows this. The city outside his window is a symphony of chaos, a blur of headlights streaking through the rain, the distant, mournful wail of a siren, the relentless drumming of water against the glass. But inside his small apartment, there is only silence. A heavy, breathing silence, broken by the soft scratch of charcoal on paper. He draws not what he sees, but what he feels, the ghost of a smile on a face he can no longer touch, the outline of a hand that once fit perfectly in his. The paper is a graveyard for his happiest moments, each stroke an attempt to resurrect a warmth that has long since left his bones. His phone lies dark on the cluttered desk. It has been dark for what feels like an eternity. The last message from Mia hangs in the digital void, a final, unanswered period that ended a conversation, and everything else. He tells himself it was a mutual drifting, a slow fade. But the truth, a sharp and splintered thing, is that he pushed her away. He built a wall, stone by stone, out of his own fears, his insecurities, the terrifying, formless dread that he was not enough. And when the wall was complete, he found himself utterly alone in the cold space he had created. Mia exists in a different kind of silence. Hers is not empty, but full of the crisp, sterile efficiency of her gallery, full of the murmured critiques of patrons, full of the echoing footsteps on polished concrete floors. She curates beauty for a living, surrounding herself with the boldest expressions of the human experience. Yet her own heart feels like a locked exhibit. She moves a sculpture an inch to the left, adjusts the spotlight on a violent, beautiful canvas, her face a mask of professional composure. But her eyes, if anyone looked closely, hold a quiet fracture. She misses the messy, lived-in chaos of a shared life. She misses the man who could see the color of her mood in the way she held her coffee cup. Tonight, the rain drives them both into the past. For Leo, it is the smell of her perfume, lingering on an old scarf buried in a drawer, a scent that hits him with the force of a physical blow, bending him double with memory. For Mia, it is a song, drifting from a passing car, a melody they once sang off-key in a kitchen bathed in golden evening light. The memories are not gentle visits, they are ambushes. They leave her clutching the edge of her desk, staring at her own reflection in the dark gallery window, seeing not a successful curator, but a woman who is profoundly, achingly lonely. Fate, or perhaps the simple, desperate need for a connection to something real, moves through them. In a used bookstore, a sanctuary of dust and dreams, their hands reach for the same volume at the very same moment. Not a popular novel, but a book of poetry, its spine cracked, its pages yellowed. Their fingertips brush. The air vanishes from the room. When they look up, the world narrows to a tunnel containing only each other's familiar, yet strangely changed, faces. Time stutters, stops, then collapses. It is not a joyful reunion. It is a seismic shock. In her eyes, he sees the reflection of his own regret, a years-old pain still fresh. In his, she sees the ghost of the boy she loved, now wearing the weary eyes of a man. They fumble with words, a clumsy ballet of how have you been and it's been so long that taste like ash on their tongues. Everything they do not say screams in the space between them. The easy intimacy they once wore like a second skin is gone, replaced by a paralyzing, electric tension. He notices a new, delicate line of silver in her hair, a story he wasn't there to witness. She sees the once bright enthusiasm in his eyes, now dimmed to a cautious ember. Yet, beneath the awkwardness, an undeniable current pulls, the gravity of a shared history, the magnetic attraction of a love that was never properly buried, only dormant. A single, hesitant cup of coffee in the bookstore's cramped cafe stretches into hours. The rain paints rivers on the window, sealing them in a fragile bubble. They do not speak of the end. Instead, they talk in circles around the edges of their lives since, his freelance work, her latest exhibition. The conversation is a minefield, every neutral topic hinting at the crater left by their absence from each other's world. He makes a quiet joke, an old callback to a private moment, and for a split second, her guard drops. A real, unfiltered laugh escapes her, and it is like the sun breaking through storm clouds. He feels his own frozen heart give a painful, hopeful thud. But the past is a tide, and it rushes in. A misunderstood comment, a name carelessly dropped, and the old wound split open, raw and glistening. The hurtful, final words of their last argument are conjured back into the space between them, as potent and poisonous as the day they were spoken. Mia's face closes off, the mask snapping back into place. "I should go," she says, her voice tight. Leo can only nod, the moment of connection shattered. He watches her walk back into the rain, a figure dissolving into the grey, and the emptiness that returns is 1,000 times worse than before. He has tasted the oxygen of her presence again, And now his solitude is suffocating. What follows is a silent war waged across the city. Leo, haunted by the glimpse of what he lost, begins to draw her again, but not the memories. He draws the woman he saw in the bookstore, the strength in her posture, the new wisdom in her eyes, the sorrow she tried to hide. Each sketch is a love letter and an apology. He finds her social media, not to stalk, but to understand. Scrolling through a life of opening nights and accomplishments, seeing the loneliness behind the smiles in the photographs. He buys a ticket to her newest exhibition. Mia, meanwhile, is thrown into turmoil. Seeing Leo has undone years of careful compartmentalization. The gallery's white walls feel like a cage. She finds herself standing before a painting of a storm-tossed sea, feeling as unmoored and battered as the boat on the canvas. She tries to lose herself in work, in the company of a charming, uncomplicated artist who pursues her, but his touch feels wrong. His laugh is too loud. He is not Leo. The ghost of a love that was all-consuming will not be banished by polite conversation. The night of the exhibition arrives. The gallery hums with polished conversation and clinking glasses. Mia is the picture of grace, a conductor of the evening symphony. But her eyes constantly scan the crowd, a traitorous hope flickering in her chest. He does not come. As the crowd thins, a crushing disappointment settles over her. She is about to retreat to her office when she sees it. Tucked in a quiet corner, away from the main display, is a simple drawing. It is her. Not a photograph, but an essence captured in charcoal, her, as she was tonight, a mix of strength and profound vulnerability, seen with a lover's intimate, unforgetting eye. At the bottom, a single initial, L. She finds him outside, leaning against the building in the damp night, looking up at the sky. No words are needed. The drawing said everything. They stand there, the city's noise fading to a distant hum. This time, the silence is not empty. It is thick with everything they have carried, every unsaid word, every night of lonely regret. He turns to her, his eyes brimming with a raw, unvarnished truth. "I was so afraid of not being enough for you," he whispers, the confession torn from him, "that I made sure I wasn't. I broke it, so you wouldn't have to." It is the key. Mia's own defenses crumble, tears finally spilling over. "I thought I wasn't worth the fight," she says, her voice cracking. "You just let me go." The dam breaks. There, on the rain-slicked sidewalk, under the indifferent glare of a street lamp, the full, ugly, beautiful truth comes pouring out. They speak of their fears, their failures, the catastrophic misunderstanding that tore them apart. They argue again, but this time it is not to wound, it is to excavate. It is to heal. The pain is excruciating, a surgery without anesthetic, but it is honest. And in that honesty, the wall between them finally begins to dissolve. Reconciliation is not a switch flipped, but a slow, deliberate sunrise. They do not fall blindly back into each other's arms. They walk. They talk for hours, through the night and into the pale morning, retracing the steps of their old love, visiting the park where they had their first picnic, the closed cafe where they shared countless mornings. They are not revisiting a museum of the past. They are laying a new foundation, brick by painful, hopeful brick. They learn the people they have become, the scars, the strengths forged in solitude. His gentle patience disarms her cynicism. Her unwavering belief in him rekindles a light he thought was extinguished. The final test comes not from within, but from without. An opportunity arises for Mia, a prestigious, year-long curatorship in another country. It is everything she has worked for. The old Leo would have seen it as a threat, a proof of his own inadequacy, and would have sabotaged it with his fear. The man he is now looks at her, at the brilliant, ambitious light in her eyes, and says, "You have to go." But he does not say goodbye. He takes her hands. "And I will be here," he adds, his voice steady with a hard-won conviction. "When you come back. We're not a chapter anymore, Mia. We're the whole story. This is just a page." His unwavering support is the ultimate proof of his change. It is the antithesis of their past. In that moment, Mia understands that their love is no longer a fragile thing to be sheltered, but a resilient force that can span distance and time. She goes. The separation is a deep, physical ache for them both. But this time, the silence between continents is filled, with video calls that last until dawn, with letters he writes in his sketchbook and sends scans of, with the quiet, steadfast certainty of a shared future. The loneliness is no longer a void, it is a waiting room. The day she returns, the city is bathed not in rain, but in the golden light of late afternoon. He waits at the arrival gate, no longer a man haunted by ghosts, but one solid in his hope. When she emerges, she is not the same woman who left. She is more. They meet in the middle of the bustling terminal, and the world falls away. There is no dramatic kiss, no sweeping music. He simply rests his forehead against hers, a sigh of homecoming passing between them. "You're here," he breathes. "I'm home," she answers. They walk out of the airport hand in hand, not into a perfect, fairy tale ending, but into a life they have consciously, courageously chosen to rebuild. It is a life that has been scarred by loss and deepened by second chances. Their love is not a forgotten relic of the past, but a living, breathing creation. More profound, more precious, and more enduring because it has been tested by fire, shattered, and painstakingly pieced back together with the gold of forgiveness, understanding, and a choice, made anew every single day, to never let go again. The story of their hearts, once a tale of two separate silences, has finally found its single, harmonious song.